gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? The show starts in 3, 2, 1, go.
What is going on, CaneSport, and good morning to you all. It is February 16th on a beautiful Friday this morning, and we're here for Good Morning CaneSport. Today is the Matt and Izubee show because Gary's off doing something, and Steven's probably still sleeping in. So me and Matt are taking the reins of everything today. So let's jump right into it. Today, we have the season opener baseball series with the Canes. New head coach JD Arteaga is bringing his new team to Coral Gables as they open up against NJIT. Earlier this week, Matt and I were down at the Light talking to the new players, coaching staffs, and all that good stuff. And we have plenty on the site for you to read and catch up on before today's season opener later on this evening. Before we get into that, Matt, just what were your overall thoughts of, JD getting that job from Gino, was on staff for almost 20 years, played pitcher at Miami for a long time, was in Omaha every single year he played. Just your thoughts on JD being the head guy for the Hurricanes now.
I mean, it's like I have to be recused. It's like if I'm on jury duty and they're suing a sports reporter. I can't be on that case. I like JD. I feel like almost like we're friends. Like I like him personally, and he's had such a horrible tragedy with his son. Like I'm never gonna say anything bad about him. So honestly, I should never be on this show talking about my Hurricanes baseball team. I mean, that's just the truth. Because as a reporter, you can't be subjective. You're supposed to be objective. But, I went to Media Day. I was the only person who did not get a shake because I have to, unlike you young people, they give you free shakes when you go to Media Day because otherwise nobody would go, I assume. That's why. They give you, like football Media Day, they give you nothing. Football Media Day, if anything, they can make us, buy them food. Baseball Media Day, they're like, please come to Media Day. There'll be free shakes and pizza and pasta. And that's what they had. And one reporter ate a ton. I was talking to, he had a ton of pizza and pasta and a shake. And he's like, so then we, half an hour later, we're talking to players. He's like, dude, I'm falling asleep. The carbo load's getting to me. And I think he went to sleep at that point because it was pretty boring, honestly. The players were super boring. Not that baseball players are ever that exciting. I mean, baseball is a pretty mellow sport. I'm a coach again. I'm coaching Howard Palmetto baseball without a child in the league, which my fellow coach, who I've coached with for years, thinks parents might think it's weird. Like, why are these two guys? Why would they want to coach our children when their children aren't even playing in this rec ball league? Like, we're not getting paid, And I just enjoy the sport. I find baseball very relaxing, and I know baseball. I played baseball growing up in college at Tufts for a year before I was bad enough to not be wanted back. I guess I was a victim of the transfer portal, except nobody wanted me to transfer there either. So I guess I wasn't a victim of the transfer portal. I was just bad. But no, I did play for a year at Tufts. And then I just had fun the last 3 years at Tufts. But as far as Miami baseball this year, I don't have high expectations. Usually they're ranked in the top 20, 25, and they're really not this year. They're a bunch of new faces, which JD is quick to tell everybody, we'll learn their names at some point. I don't know that we will. I don't really care. I'm not a baseball guy when it comes to University of Miami. I am a baseball person and my wife, but this isn't it's weird. This isn't a team that I'm excited about. It's not a team that you think is going to win a national championship because that's what the ultimate goal is. I think it would be nice for them to have a better year than last year. I think it would be nice for them to get past regionals for a change. And I think it would be nice to see the team get better, not worse, as the season goes on. And, when one of their best players is like a Wake Forest cast-off, you're like, okay, Wake Forest is probably, I think they're ranked, number 1 by some polls, whatever. So I get it. But, that's going to be one of their best players. And, their other players are all sort of, from other places. I mean, their number 2 starters from a community college. Their closer is a 7th-year Cam McCormick wannabe. It's like a bit, it's like these you put bits and pieces together, and they're trying to just sort of piecemeal it, and we'll see what happens. But but yeah, I would encourage baseball fans, start your expectations low, and like I always say, then you'll be pleasantly surprised. Do not start this year with high expectations for this Miami baseball team. That's my caveat. What about you, Izubee? What's your prediction?
I'm Mr. Happy-Go-Lucky, so I'm saying we're going to Omaha, baby. But in all reality, when kind of JD kept saying, this team is young and scrappy, I kind of feel like that's not the best way to describe a team or get people fired up about a group of new guys with your first year. But coming off of last year, I was there at the regional when they lost to Texas at home, and it was just like, man, I think they needed to change. It was my first year kind of really paying attention to the program, covering them and things like that. And I kind of saw this team, they had all the talent, but I think they just needed to change up top, kind of a boost of energy. And I think JD kind of gives them that boost of energy, but the talent isn't just there right now. Like you mentioned, the Wake Forest castaway. We've got the 30th year senior Dwight that's going to be the closer. Got the, pitcher coming in for Miami-Dade. They call him the Highly of Fire. That's a pretty cool nickname if you ask me. But it's a ragtag group of guys right now. And like you mentioned, keep those expectations low. So if they do, surpass them, everyone's happy, chanting their left, right when they strike out somebody. But it'll be interesting to see. And I'm really excited to see the freshman third baseman, Daniel Cuvée. He came in on me today, was kind of like a robot, just answering these questions. Yes, no, yes, no.
Yeah.
And he seems like a guy that can, make an impact early. And, guys like Blake Sear coming back at a big freshman year. So kind of a ragtag group of guys, but excited to see how they do. I think they play the first month at home and don't leave until kind of the middle of March. So plenty of baseball to watch at the light to kind of get these guys comfortable, get their feet wet. But it'll be really interesting to see how things develop at the light this year. And I'm excited for it. So make sure to check out that update that we have on all the baseball, including Laz Gutierrez, a new pitching coach, and a few new guys to the program as we lead up to tonight's season opener. Moving on to the stuff that everyone wants to hear about, football. I feel like spring football is inching closer and closer away, 2 weeks away. And Matt Shodell does what he does best, sits in the lab and cooks up the best stories on the internet. We're going to take a look at the best spring position battles. Matt, without giving too much away, can you talk about one battle and what do you think that's going to happen?
You know what? I don't even want to talk about that. Here's what I want to talk about. Like everyone, this spring position battles. I mean, you can. They should be pretty much everywhere. Backup quarterback will be interesting. I mean, you guys can read the story today for what we wrote, but I think running back. I would like to see. With Mark Fletcher out this spring, I would like to see Henry Parrish get pushed by somebody, anybody, AJ Allen, whatever. Offensive line was pretty set, but you'd like to see a guard emerge from somewhere, or even maybe a tackle, and then you can move Jalen Rivers back inside. Tight end, they'll have Elijah Arroyo back healthy. Supposedly he's looking pretty good, so you'll see how he looks. And then on defense, you want to find obviously CJ Clark, a defensive tackle. You want to see how Jared Harrison Hunt looks stepping up. Is Josh Horton going to push to be a starter? Maybe. Linebacker, it's all just about the backups with 2 starters returning, but no experienced backups. And the secondary should be wide open competition, pretty much aside from Mishael from Washington, who's going to be a starting safety. But other than that, even Darryl Porter should be pushed. But I think they need to bring in more cornerbacks from the portal, I think, in the second window. We'll see. But what I want to talk about, with all that said, you mentioned I went in the lab. But there is no lab, okay? I wish people would start talking about the lab. But I did find something really interesting, which I'll be writing about it at some other point. But since, Izubee, you're on the show and I know you want to interrupt me, like Gary, I'm going to say it now because when I say with Gary around, it's like you can't say anything. So this is really interesting, okay? And I'll put it in terms that it is a battle. It's not a position battle, but it's going to be a mental battle for Shannon Dawson because he has to figure out this spring how to use Cam Ward. And when I say that, I don't mean, does he scramble around and have running plays on RPOs, whatever percent of the time. I mean, he needs to decide if this is a 50-50 run-pass team, which seems to be what Mario Cristobal wants, and which it was last year, by the way. Last year, they ran the ball more than they passed it. The Miami Hurricanes did. Cam Ward, and I looked these up, okay? So last year, I broke it down like this. I looked at the running backs because quarterbacks will carry the ball too. So I looked at the running backs. So plays where the running backs actually carry the ball. 45% of the time last year at Miami, the running back carried the ball. Interestingly, when Shannon Dawson had a really good quarterback in 2022, Clayton Tune at Houston, okay, the running backs ran the ball 30% of the time, 30.4% of the time. That's a 15% difference. That's a huge chunk of every game that, you know, the ball is in a running back's hand instead of, and the quarterback could obviously run it himself, so we're taking that out. Now, with that said, Cam Ward at Washington State, okay, in his 2 years at Washington State, the running backs ran the ball a combined 28% of the time. All right. So Shannon Dawson has to make a decision, you know, and we'll find this out. I don't know if it's Shannon Dawson's decision or not, but I think if Shannon Dawson had his druthers, to use a word that you probably never heard before, but Gary used all the time back in the 1920s, if Shannon Dawson had his druthers, I think that he would be letting Cam Ward basically be the guy who does everything. You know, 75% of the time, I think Cam Ward would either have the ball in his hands running it or throwing it. But we saw last year at Miami in Shannon Dawson's first year that wasn't the case. The quarterback had the ball 55% of the time in their hands running it or throwing it, versus that, you know, the Clayton Tune number that I just gave you, which was 70%, right? 30.4 for the running back, so 70%. I think it'll be really interesting to see if Shannon Dawson does hit that 70% mark with Cam Ward this year, letting him run and pass and basically take the you know, you say take the game on your shoulders as a quarterback. Like, that's how you do it. Or is this perception of Mario, you know, weaseling his way into the offense and forcing them to constantly run the ball up the middle, or is that still going to be there? Because that's what I think can hold back the offense. That's why you can talk about position battles all you want, but this battle, mental battle between, you know, Shannon Dawson and Mario Cristobal, if people want to think it's that, I don't know that it really is. But that has to, in my opinion, that has to come out to 70% Cam Ward. If they're going to have the running backs running the ball 45% of the time again, I think that will hold back the potential of this offense. And I have a bad feeling that Mario Cristobal thinks that this offensive line is again going to be the strength of the team, because that's where he spends every practice. And I have a feeling he wants to run the ball down people's throat and impose Miami's will, because that's what he does. And that he's not going to really let Cam Ward become the offense. And my concern again is if that happens, like, I don't know that you hit 10 wins this year. Like, you have to let Cam Ward do what he did at Washington State and was so successful doing, which, by the way, was, they called it a modified air raid, right? Here we call it a, what do they call it? A hybrid air raid. From a modified air raid to hybrid air raid, it's not that different, right? So let Cam Ward do what Cam Ward does. You bought him here for 1 year for a reason, as a top 4-round draft pick, probably, if he went in the pros, to do what he does. And what he does is take over games. What he doesn't do or hasn't done is just hand the ball off half the time. You know, that, to me, that's the biggest battle of the spring. Will they let Cam Ward be the Cam Ward that we saw at Washington State for 2 years, or will they turn him into a machine, you know, what do you call it, a system quarterback at Miami? And that's going to be really interesting to see. I have a bad feeling, that they're going to run the ball 45% of the time again. That's my prediction, and I think it's a mistake.
Matt Shodell has feelings, guys. Breaking news. It's here, but no, I agree with you 100%. I feel like you literally cannot turn. I'm getting tongue-tied just being so angry about this. I feel like you cannot turn him into a system quarterback and make him kind of like, hey, you're going to do this, this, and that. Like you mentioned, we've seen him kind of take the reins of the offense and him find success at Washington, at Incarnate World or Word, whatever school he came from in Texas.
Word, not World. Word,
Incarnate Word.
Yes.
Thank you, Matt.
Incarnate.
So, you know, I mean, I don't know the price that they paid to get him here or what they went through to get him here, but I feel like you look like, you know, those guys with the big shoes and the red horns on their nose. You look like a clown if you didn't let him kind of be him and be free for 1 year and just take this Miami offense to, you know, levels that we haven't seen since maybe those Rhett Lashley days when Tyler Van Dyke really bursted on the scene. But I think it's going to be really interesting. I think personally we're going to see the best of Cam Ward, and he's going to shine in Miami. But, you know, like some people say, Izubee's too optimistic sometimes, and you got to be a little bit realistic. But I'm going to be optimistic until proven wrong. So I do think Cam Ward has a big year. And, you know, I recently saw he had the 9th best odds to win the Heisman. So hopefully those numbers are correct.
By the way, Izubee, do you know that his odds were virtually identical to Tyler Van Dyke's at the same time a year ago? So you always want the good news with the bad news, and the bad news with the good news. So that's. I don't know if that's bad news or good news, but
I don't know how to take that news because, gosh, just the love-hate relationship I had with watching TVD over last year was something that could be documented and put into a movie. But we'll leave the past in the past and kind of focus on Cam Ward.
That movie would get 0% on Rotten Tomatoes. Nobody's watching the movie of your reactions, Tyler Van Dyke. It's not like that Nickelodeon. That's the Nickelodeon channel. That's what you want, Izubee. You want to have your own channel for watching TVD highlights, and you'll be like the slime on TVD. You'll be throwing the slime out there on him and all that stuff. That's what you want to do.
I think what I'll do next year, I'll set up a second camera just on me, have my reaction during the game. She's like, "Oh gosh, what's going on? 3 interceptions in one game, man." God.
You know what? I think people actually might watch that. That's not a bad idea.
Let's if anyone wants to watch my live reactions, leave a big thumbs up on this video in a comment, and I'll record myself watching every single Miami Hurricanes football game.
Well, you got to give it a name. What are you going to call it? Izubee's what? Izubee's.
I don't know. What rhymes? I don't think what rhymes with Izubee. I don't think there's much or any clever things. All eyes on Izubee or something. I don't know.
Maybe somebody on YouTube channel will come up with an idea for you.
Yeah, if you guys.
If somebody has a really good title for it, maybe we'll do it. Like that might be a catchy thing. We'll put on the front page of CaneSport, Izubee's whatever, and we'll just have a video of you live at the games, watching the games, without not even showing the games. It would be just your face,
right,
just your face the whole game.
That's and then after we can say just off his expressions, can you predict the final score?
There you go.
The fun part of it all.
Perfect.
So once we get Gary back on the show next week, we'll get his A-OK and then move on with the Izubee cam. But for now,
Izubee cam. That's not bad.
Izubee cam, yeah, okay. I like that one.
Simple, very simple.
Alrighty, but before we get to the Izubee cam stuff, for more than that, we're going to move on to recruiting, which is pretty much in the Izubee cam with all these stories coming in from Steven and I. And going to 4-star running back Alvin Henderson out of Alabama. He recently spoke with new Miami hire Matt Merritt, who just came in for Coach Tim Harris, who left for that OC job at UCF. And he's telling me that Merritt is making him a priority and telling him he's doing everything he can to make him a Miami Hurricane. We also have an update on 2025 wide receiver out of Shamadan Madonna, Kobe Howard. Matt, to wrap up the show, I want to ask you about Matt Merritt, the new hire at running back, and the empty position that they have at the defensive back coach heading into the spring. Are you concerned about that? And just what are your thoughts about the Merritt hire coming from USF?
Terrible hire. Terrible.
Oof.
No, I'm just kidding. I just like to be negative. I don't care. Look, I mean, Mario Cristobal is all about recruiting. And it's funny. They always have, whenever they hire a coach, they always send out this release with, oh, look what he's done with this guy and with that guy and whatever. The truth is, and fans can disagree all they want, but it's true, the best coaches happen to have the best players. It's not like they take bad players and there are these amazing coaches who turn bad players into NFL prospects. They recruit the best players, and that's why they're the best coaches. So when you recruit a guy with a history of having really good running backs playing for him, it's because he's a good recruiter. This guy's a good recruiter. That's why Mario wants him. Mario wants to load up his staff with good recruiters, and you're going to see the same thing happen in the defensive backs coaching hire. And Miami's big thing now is secrecy. God forbid anybody says anything. We'll be banned for life from the state of Florida, and we'll have to live the rest of our lives in Omaha, Nebraska, watching the College World Series, which would be a total nightmare. So we just have to wait and see. We have to wait and see. But the expectation is that this hire will be happening soon. They don't want to go into spring practice without a coach who can help the secondary, although Lance Guidry does work with the safeties at least. But you got to have your staff in place for those 15 practices, and you got to have that coach able to be integrated with the players before spring practice. Hire them the first day, go out there and teach them what you know. Like, they need to know what they're working with and how to make each particular player better, each player how they react to criticism or praise, and that sort of thing. But yeah, I'm fine with the running backs hire. I was fine with Tim Harris. I was fine with all these guys. I don't think, aside from Josh Gaddis was not a great hire, but in general, even Jamil Adai, I had no problem with him. I think where some of the disconnect comes in with Mario is, again, it's all about recruiting. It's all about recruiting, and you could see the secondary. If you look at the roster right now, it was a very poorly recruited group. I mean, you get 4 guys that are gone, and there's literally nothing. Like, they had to take 2 transfers who are probably going to be the starters at safety. At cornerback, Darryl Porter, they took him as a transfer a year ago. He wasn't recruited, and he's the only returning starter. Damari Brown was recruited and had to play as a true freshman because they had nothing. And then Devontae transferred out. He didn't work out. But it's a little bit of a mess in the secondary, and that's part. It's recruiting. A lot of it's recruiting. When you see a position where you have a lot of transfers, it's because they didn't recruit well, and that's all over the secondary right now. And that's why Jamil Adai is not here right now. They need a guy who can really recruit talent and stack talent, and you go from there. I mean, we talked about it the other day, but you can't, and for those that saw the last show, you can't build a program successfully long-term through the portal. It just doesn't work unless you have an unlimited amount of money like Gary Furman. Izubee and I are not Gary Furman. The University of Miami is not Gary Furman, which is a shame. And that's why you've got to recruit, develop. That's the formula, because that's Mario Cristobal's strength. We've already seen Mario's not great in the portal, right? I know fans won't like to hear it, but Manny Diaz was better at recruiting the portal than Mario Cristobal is. But Mario Cristobal is a million times the recruiter that Manny Diaz was. So when fans are like, oh, you can always just get people out of the portal. It's okay to live in the portal like FSU does. What's so bad about that? Well, your head coach isn't a portal guy. Your head coach is one of the best head coach recruiters in the country, in my opinion, the best. So, build your program with recruiting. Let him do what he does best instead of filling up your roster with 20 spots that are transfers. That's a 20 scholarship self-imposed probation that you put yourself on when your coach isn't great in the portal and is great in recruiting. So, I've said it when he got hired. I said they shouldn't be taking all these transfers. I said I'm fine with one-year guys if you're going to leave that spot open anyway. But to just take transfers who are here, there are guys right now they're taking these transfers that are here for 3 years, and AJ Allen and one of the safeties or one of the corners and this. Yeah, Judeus. To me, that's not for me. I love Mario as a recruiter, and I get it. Some of these transfers might be great. That's awesome. I hope they are. But from the reports we've already done on the transfers that come through, it's not a great hit rate on these transfers. And it set the program back. It set the program back. To me, it's clear that when Mario came in, he made a mistake trying to win through winning with transfers while building with recruiting. He couldn't do both. He thought he could do both, and he couldn't, because he filled so many spots now with transfers that are gone or that didn't pan out. And look at his record the last 2 years with the transfers he took. You can't tell me that that they couldn't have taken some freshmen that could have panned out 2 years ago, by now, right? And second year, third year guys, because it's hard sometimes to project. You could say, oh, but they would have had to take 3 stars or no stars. There are project guys. Alonzo Highsmith had project guys that he thought were good enough to be Miami Hurricanes, but they weren't star guys. And I'm not sure that Mario Cristobal likes taking no star guys that are projects. They are projects, those guys. That's why they have no stars or 2 stars or 3 stars or whatever. They're projects. But he could have taken chances on those guys instead of some of these portal guys that didn't pan out. And that's, I think, was his biggest mistake. But with that said, I still predict 10 wins this year. I still predict the playoffs, maybe as soon as this year, but probably next year or the year after. Next year's schedule is going to be a little difficult now. So they're going to have to really have a good team a year from now, which they should. He's been stacking recruiting classes. Now they got to develop those guys. And guess what? If they win 7 or 8 games this year, then it's a freaking disaster. I'm going to stop covering this team. So I'm predicting 10 wins, because if it's anything less than that, I'm not going to be on the show anymore. I'm going to be covering some other team. I'll be done.
So you heard it here first, guys. This beautiful Friday. Miami does not win 10 games next year. Matt Shodell is.
I will be gone. People will be so happy. People will be rooting against Miami now. They want me gone. I will be gone. I'm not covering this team if they win 7 or 8 games this year and everybody's calling for Mario to get fired again. I'm so over that. I'm too old for this stuff. Izubee, for you, it's fine because you think everything's gonna work out. I already know better. I'm not dealing with it again. If Mario doesn't work out, I can't imagine another coach that's going to work out. So they better win 10 games this year.
They will. I think Mario's watching this. He was going to tell his guys, we got to keep Matt Shodell covering the Canes.
Yeah, right. That might be the only reason he wants to lose a game. Get rid of me.
No, it's actually funny with the DB coach. I was on Twitter or X this morning. I saw somebody posted the LinkedIn application that said University of Miami assistant coach DB, and I was like, That is hilarious. Imagine somebody just tossed their name on that and got the job. That'd be pretty funny. But a lot of new roles or new guys, new faces in the program with transfers and a few new coaches. So it's going to be very exciting. I'm excited for the spring. I can't wait till I believe it's March 1st when they start practices or whatever that is to get back out there and watch some football. So I'm excited. I know the fans are excited. I know Matt Shodell is just eager and ready to get back out there those early mornings to watch those guys play. But in all seriousness, thank you all for watching this morning's episode of Good Morning CaneSport. For Matt Shodell, I'm Izubee Charles. Thank you all for watching. Have a great rest of your day.